It is Thursday, August the 21st. Good morning and a warm welcome to your Perfect Day Starter. The Morning Brief, I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
And I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Thank you as always for being with us, and we'll do our best. I always make that promise because, yes, we make a promise and we'll try to keep to that promise. Welcome to the program. Kayode, what's up?
Sound like a politician right now, Jeffrey. What office are you running for?
No, I'm not running for office. Elective office. I don't have that stamina. I don't have the craziness. No.
It would be good to see you at rallies, though.
Oh, no.
Vote for me.
I think I can speak fairly good English.
It's good to see you at
But
rallies.
it's beyond all of that. The machinery of politics is intense.
Jeffrey, you can do this. At least you have one vote from me.
I don't have that stamina at all. It's not my dream to be a politician, at least not from where I sit.
It's a nightmare for you or what?
No, well, it's good to serve the people, but the way it's practiced here, I enjoy my posture, my position of holding the powerful to account. That's also part of service to the nation. Yeah. But waking up one day to say I'm going to run for political office, nah, I don't see that happening.
Jeffrey said, never say never, never say never. But
anything can happen, but I don't see that happening now.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to put you on the spot, forgive me. But our conversation this morning begins in Tokyo, Japan. Oh yes, Nigeria's president and other leaders from across the continent are attending the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD 9. And yes, President Bola Tinubu yesterday called for reforms at the United Nations to give African permanent representation on the Security Council. There were other conversations, but this is what is grabbing a lot of attention. Nigeria's stand at TICAD 9, of course, is holding in Yokohama, Japan. So some of the attendees from Nigeria said, you know what, let's visit Nigeria's stand and see what is going on. And they went there and have video evidence of the empty stand right there, and that has caused quite a debate on social media. So different angles to this conversation, Jeffrey. There are those who said, well, you don't expect Nigeria's president to be at the stand. I mean, he didn't go there to be at the stand. The conversations he went to have are conversations you have behind closed doors, you know, high-level conversations. So what were they really expecting? Did they expect the Nigerian government to be to put products and say, oh, this is what we're selling, when they say Nigerian government doesn't sell anything and all of that? And there are those who say, wait, before I get there, so a statement was put out, if you can put up that statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because there were different messages coming out from different people. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs also put up a tweet. If we could just show you what that tweet says right away. The tweet spoke to the effect that, well, yes, we have seen all the things that have been said about this, but contrary to that tweet, the Nigerian booth has not yet been opened. The booth will be officially inaugurated today. It's Thursday, August the 21st, after which it will become fully operational and serve the delegates of TICAD. TICAD ends tomorrow, by the way. So it's kind of contradictory for a lot of people saying, but I thought you said there's no point being there because Nigerian government has bigger fish to fry. But then you say that the booth will be open today. What exactly are you saying? So that has caused a big debate online.
I think at this point, the communication team should be embarrassed with what played out with this. This is not supposed to be a big issue, but now they've made it a big issue. There are two things that have come out of this. It just shows that there is lack of coordination in the presidential communication team as far as TICAD is concerned. So we don't know who to believe. Some looks like an afterthought. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which of course is in charge of all of this, has said that the booth will be open today. The event started yesterday, ends tomorrow. But when I saw a long epistle from Bayo Onanuga and Ortega talking about the fact that, well, I think Mr. Bayo Onanuga even talked about the fact that we're not there for Expo. There are other things, and he listed the several things, the bilateral talk, the sideline conversation, the negotiations that are going on, similar thing with Ortega and all of that. So what do you really believe when it comes to the communication? One was very direct. Okay, it's not open because we haven't inaugurated it. The other one is saying we're not there for Expo. So what do we take between Bayo Onanuga and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? What exactly is going on? Nobody is saying the president must be there. I don't think any president is there, as a matter of fact. It's just representative of government that are there to maybe chit-chat, whoever stops by, want to make an inquiry. There are different reasons. Why the guy, whoever filmed this, was making complaints to the fact that as TICA started, literally every other nation was, had their people there, represented, maybe having a chit-chat with whoever cares to pay attention to whatever nation. So as a concerned citizen, he was saying, look, why is our booth empty? And then that response came, okay, our booth is empty because we haven't inaugurated it. That's another question. Why are other people, why have they started and we haven't started? Okay, it will be open today. And then the same federal government is coming to say we're not there for Expo and listed several other things. So they should just get their acts together, the communication team. They've even made it, in terms of communication, they made it worse for themselves. So this is embarrassing for me as a Nigerian, and as this is coming from the presidency. You can't be firing from two directions. Just stick to whatever it is. So if it didn't open because it's not been inaugurated, that is fair enough. You can explain that later.
Jeffrey,
they're saying that...
Why are we inaugurating a booth on the second day of a 3-day event?
That is another kettle of fish. I don't even want to go there yet.
Because other people have opened.
Yes, other people have opened their booth. But Bayonanuga is saying they are not there for Expo, as though these people that opened their booth, they're also not doing bilateral talks. They're also not doing negotiations behind. They just came from their country, came there to say, we have opened shop, come and buy a Karanakamo. No, it doesn't make sense. So my problem, two problems I have, first and foremost, is that there is lack of coordination in the communication. That's my own. First, just be clear. Then second part is that I'm also happy this guy raised this thing, Kayode, because if he did not raise this concern, all the things Bayonanuga listed, now I can look at Bayonanuga's tweets. And when they come back, I like to say, Daddy, yo. So, Daddy, you traveled. They say this, that, and you're retinue. Now you can, if you look at Mr. Bayonanuga's tweet, you can see clearly some of the direct engagement our ministers and our federal government is having with potential investors that are already in the country and what they are there for. So that becomes a metric for us to measure the success or the failure or otherwise of this particular trip.
Yeah.
Perhaps if this guy did not film this thing, we will not get all of this detail.
And that's Idris Ayodeji Bello, who originally put up that post. And I must say, first off, that I mean, he shouldn't come under any form of attack. What he put out there, from what I see, was put out in good faith. Nobody is more Nigerian than the other, because I've seen other people come in and say, you're coming to embarrass Nigeria and all of that. This is a Nigerian as well, so I don't think your blood is greener than his blood. So nobody should say, oh, you're putting us in bad light and all of that. Let us just take whatever it is, take it in good stride and all work together. The thing about governance these days is that there is social media. There is evidence. So if you think this is governance in 1995, 98, and all of that, where you can do things and get away with it, not anymore. You have to sit up because there are people who will film it, there are people who will put it out. There are no more official channels that people rely on, just one channel. No, there are other channels. Everybody is a potential channel. So I think government should realize this, recognize this, and embrace this. So show workings to not try to, attack this person, because I've seen lots of attacks on social media on him. What he just said is, you know what, it doesn't look good, because he had to designate himself as the honorary consul, and he took over the booth to engage visitors. Eventually, we understand that officials then now came that same day before the inauguration today. So let's take this in good faith and ensure that in the future, we're able to handle these things better. If it's manned by a private individual, let's ensure that we do it well. So it's no big deal.
If they were there, he won't do the work he's doing. Yeah. It's just, I'm sure he did that because he had looked around. Maybe if he even saw the person that swept the place, or whoever would have asked, did you see any? He didn't see anybody. So he decided to be patriotic to do what he has. So anybody vilifying or attacking him, he shouldn't bother with all of that. He's done his job. I thank him for doing what he did for me, because now I know what to hold the presidential team accountable. Because if Bayonanuga was very explicit in who is engaging what for what, so that is at least fair. If this did not happen, perhaps we don't have that information. But the moral of this is that the presidency, the communication team, please get your acts together. This shouldn't have escalated. Your responses are conflicting. All right. What
There
do we
you
have
go.
next?
So let's walk you through what more we have for you on the show today. For the fourth day, we're staying on this story, and it's the dehumanizing nature that, well, the now sacked men of Agone Chamber, the security outfit in Anambra State, the way they treated the core member. So today, we can tell you that, one, those men have been paraded, they have now been expelled from Agone Chamber, but we're also going to be looking at the psychological angle to this, one for the victim and even for the men as well. What kind of psychological assessment do we, well, put security men, do we put them through so we ascertain their mental state before we hand them guns, whether it's pump action or AK-47? Because that's a conversation we need to have. But also, how do we ensure that this victim is well taken care of? Because the video has now gone viral. And you wonder how much of psychological help is she getting?
Yes, all of them need psychological help. But I must thank the governor for this action. Although it's not swift, because this thing happened about a month ago. About a month ago, this thing happened, or last month, let's say so. It is now they're acting, but nonetheless, they've been arrested. Okay, that's not all we have for you. Political office holders, we're hearing that the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission is reviewing a lot of the things that have to do with the pay package of political office holders, the distribution of funds in terms of fact to the federal and states and local government. Of course, the federal government has a lion's share, in fact, significant lion's share. But the one that got a lot of people talking is this idea of increasing salary of political office holders. Are you for or against it? Well, we're going to have that conversation today and maybe bring you up to speed as to how much the president earns and all of that. That's one of the conversations today.
There you go. This one will interest you definitely. But that is not all. The Katsina Mosque attack is still a major source of concern. The death toll, we understand, has now risen to over 30. What exactly happened, really, in Katsina State, and how do we get ahead of this? Well, we have the primary security agency in Nigeria joining us on the program this morning to speak on that.
It's very heartbreaking to see this yet again. Worship center coming under attack, people killed, death toll rising is very, very heartbreaking. Guided for a while, we've not had this after, I think, Benue or which other states now, but we've seen this happen yet again, this time at a mosque. People go to worship. For God's sake, why do you go take them out in their places of worship? This is quite heartbreaking and very disturbing. That is why we need to have this conversation today on the program, because as far as this is concerned, this is totally unacceptable. The lives of Nigerians still matters. Okay. All right, let's tell you that in just a moment we'll bring you the papers, the dailies, what they are saying. But just a reminder as well that today INEC will be presenting certificate of return to victors at the last by-elections who are heading to the National Assembly. And then for the state houses of assembly, it will be tomorrow at the various headquarters of INEC, state headquarters of INEC in the state. But let's bring you the dailies. Dayak Intobi, public affairs analyst and journalist, joins us in just a moment. Stay with us. Okay, welcome back. Mr. Dayak Intobi joins us. Mr. Intobi, good to see you.
It's always a pleasure.
Kayode did not get the memo, so both of us, we got the memo for wearing black today.
Yes, and white breast pocket.
Fine, you know, I'll just step aside.
but it's okay. It's like Intobi, let's get started with Nigerian News Direct. That's where we'll get started from. The big headlines, part of what we just spoke about not so long ago. Mixed reactions trail Tinubu's Japan visit. Mixed reactions trail Tinubu's Japan visit as Nigerians decry empty booths at summit. Japan pledges $5.5 billion fund for the whole of Africa. What do you make of it?
Well, it's been a mixed bag. There have been some good coming out of it, as well as a few things that we can complain about. A couple of things that hit me was the fact that President Tinubu used the opportunity to advocate for 2 seats for Africa in terms of as permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, which is a very big deal. I think it's been long coming. I think Africa actually deserves to have some representation on that committee, and of course, Nigeria being one of the juggernauts in Africa, the president was actually advocating out of those 2 seats, one should come to Nigeria. So I think this was a good place for him to make the claim or make the request. So I think that was one good thing coming out of there. The second good thing, of course, was the fact that Japan is pledging so much money in aid, in infrastructural loans and things like that, 5.5 billion to African countries. Although I sometimes am a bit circumspect when foreign countries begin to offer to throw money at developing nations. What is their motive? There's always got to be an interest, an enlightened self-interest behind. Nobody's that magnanimous to want to throw that kind of money and just dash it out to somebody. So there's an underlying interest. What are they looking for? Is it our mineral resources they want access to? Is it our oil and gas? Is it our vast market of 230 million people in Nigeria, 400 million people in West Africa? What does Japan really want in exchange for this money? I think we should interrogate that a bit further. The other thing that I also think is kind of ironic is that President Tinubu at that forum lauded Nigeria's security apparatus as having contained insecurity in Nigeria on a very day when we're still talking about the Katsina, the massacre in the mosque in Katsina. So I think that was a bit ironic because it kind of showed him up a bit that insecurity is far from being arrested in Nigeria, and here he is boasting about it on an international stage at the same time when such a horrific massacre is happening at the same time. So I think that was a bit of a drawback in terms of the things he spoke about there. Then, of course, there's a fiasco about the Nigerian booth being unmanned, and I think the government's reasoning is rather shallow in terms of the basis they gave as to why the booth was unmanned, that they didn't go there for trade expo and they went there to have strategic talks which will occur behind the scenes. Well, the fact that we even had a booth at all is marking our presence and also gives anybody an opportunity who wants to find out more about Nigeria, discuss strategic alliances and things like that, to at least have some measure of representation. I think the fact that the booth was there in the first place, I don't think it needed to be inaugurated. I think the fact that it was there, it should have been manned, and we should have been ready to take questions from any of the people who stopped by. I think it was a blight on our presence and participation at that event that such a fiasco, a public relations fiasco, would occur, that the booth is unmanned and just a random patriotic Nigerian would be the one to go and stand in to take questions from interested passers-by and other participants in the conference.
In one breath, they thanked him for his patriotism, and another breath, they called him ignorant. I don't know why these guys write like this, because I felt a bit offended for the guy. I don't think he did it out of bad intent. No. He just felt like, okay, let's do this. Perhaps they felt that this is embarrassing the nation.
Yes.
As Kayode had said, this is not the day and age. In fact, what happens in your room can be made public if you're not careful. That's how the world now works. So I feel they should have addressed that issue without necessarily downplaying or calling him, I'm not saying ignorant of what, but the way it came across, it didn't really come out well.
Yes, I've noticed this about the president's communication team, is that they have a tendency, they don't know public relations very well. They have a tendency to come out swinging, and they're very combative, argumentative, always trying to excuse things and try to find ways to explain their way out of things that are very simple to explain. And I don't think that this battle-ready approach is always appropriate for corporate communications at the highest echelons of our government. And I don't think this one was handled very well, why you would call the man ignorant when all he was trying to do was give a positive face to our country in the presence of foreigners, where he saw a gap. And I think he should be lauded for his patriotism and not lambasted or belittled.
Well, maybe that's a little bit too late. They're coming for him now, Secretary. In fact, the New Telegraph also leads with TICAD 9. If one thing, TICAD has gotten a lot of publicity from this.
People didn't even
free
know
publicity. A lot of people did not even know what TICAD was.
Never heard of it before.
And you see, Tinubu demands 2 permanent UN Security Council seats for Africa, moves to address root causes of insecurity in Nigeria, and of course that pledge. We can talk about how almost 50 African leaders are in Yokohama, Japan.
Yes.
I'm talking about 50 heads of government from Africa.
Yes.
Were sort of shipped or invited, whichever way you want to call it. They landed in Japan and they're having conversations. I mean, today will be Russia, another day it's China, the next day it's either Europe and all of that. And there have been issues around that because you don't see all of global leaders coming to any African country to have any kind of summit, and Africa says, you know what, we're earmarking $10 billion for the EU or for Asia and all of that. So is it just where we find ourselves, how we find ourselves, and just what we have to deal with the cards that have been dealt us, or we can do better?
Well, how come we didn't end up going to Kigali or Addis Ababa or Johannesburg or one of these places and talk about inter-African cooperation to lift all of us up? Why do we still have this mindset, this colonial mentality versus imperial overlord mentality that says that for us to develop, we need foreign intervention? We still have this notion that the developed nations have the solutions to our problems better than we have the solutions to our own problems. And for as long as we have that mindset, we'll be fully dependent on external interests that have their own enlightened self-interest to pursue in our continent. Japan, as I said earlier, is not just magnanimous, and neither are the other world powers that attended wanting to throw charitable contributions at you just simply because they love the black man and they're not racist and they just feel like we've been dealt a bad hand and we need a leg up in our affairs. I think it is denigrating for anyone to look down on us to that level, despite the fact that we're shown on the world stage that we have the intellectual capacity, we have the human capital, we have the resources to develop ourselves. And as you said, why is it not the flip side, whereby have we ever seen a situation where the Western world is coming to Africa for a summit, Africa is the one offering to contribute so much to their own well-being and development? Well, historically, those countries are much further ahead along the developmental index, all the indices, they're way ahead. So you might look at it from the standpoint of the fact that, well, a more prosperous and well-to-do big brother is offering to pull up his less privileged, still trying to grow, little brother taking baby steps, trying to pull him up. That is the benevolent view. But if you take the practical view, you know there's more to it than that. And I think TICAD exemplifies that if we look at the more unspoken, unwritten factors at play, that those world powers see us as inferior, they see us as beneath them, and they see us as needing their welfare, their charity. And I don't think that's a good psychological boost for us. First of all, there's a perception among white Anglo-Saxon, European people that black Africans are intellectually inferior. That is the truth. They've always believed that we are just one step removed from Australopithecus, that we just recently got up on our hind legs and started walking on 2 legs, and that we're just starting to get away from being savages. And as a result, they're the ones that need to modernize us, civilize us, educate us. And when you see these kind of gatherings, it speaks to that superiority complex that they have that says they're better than us and we can't get anywhere unless they give us a leg up. I don't agree with that notion at all. And I've always advocated that Nigeria or Africa close its borders for an infinite amount of time. No external intervention. Let's not have any dealings with the outside world. Let us look internally, inwardly. And I think like China did. I think by the time we open up a decade or two later on, we'll be a formidable force to reckon with and won't have to go to the tickers of the world anymore.
Well said. Nothing to add, Mr. Akintobi. Let's go to the leadership newspaper. That is leading with CSOs, others list qualities for next INEC chair. Just above that housing estate rotting away. I want you to speak to both issues. So there's the display of some pictures here somewhere, I understand, in Nasarawa State, that LG's housing estate rot away in Nasarawa 4 years after inauguration. I don't know the specific area now, so let me see. Okay, I think it's here. Abandoned housing unit at the federal estate in Angwarere Lafia in Nasarawa. So that we've gotten the exact location. 4 years after, you can see grasses, weeds all over the place. If you go all over the country, you see things like this, which is why we say this is money just lying down there. The private investors can come and take over these things, and the monies we're looking for running around to get, we could get some of them internally. I would like you to speak to that, as well as, for me, the bigger one, Mahmoud Yakubu's tenure, the prof, will end, I think, in November, December. We'll be having a new INEC chair who will be appointed by the president according to law and confirmed by the Senate, which is something that everybody has been fighting for a long time, that given the fact that the incumbents are always, participants in the polls, giving them that exclusive power to make appointment is even jeopardizing it at the end of the day. And there is a valid argument to that. And Justice Ways has a fantastic proposal that has not been implemented. So CSOs, others are listing qualities for them for the next INEC chair. If you were to join these CSOs in listing, let's begin from there. What would you be looking at?
Well, the jury is out on Professor Jega, but there are some people who say he's acquitted himself well. I think he's superintended 3 elections in the 10 years that he's been in office. I think it's 3. And the jury is out, despite the fact that many of those elections were judged not to be free and fair, and they were marred by irregularities. But there are some who say he's been the best INEC chairman we've ever had. But as you've correctly pointed out, that commission, the first word of its name is independent. How independent can it be, no matter who you put there, if the person is appointed by a person who has a vested interest in the outcome and is confirmed by people who also have a vested interest in the outcome of elections? So it can't be independent. And I don't think by our very human nature, anybody can be objective to the point of being unbiased, non-partisan, and totally neutral. We all, no matter what our circumstances in life, we have personal biases, we have personal interests, and it's very difficult to separate your personal biases or your personal preferences from your official assignment. So I think that for as long as the way the appointments are structured and the chain of command, at the end of the day, who does the INEC chairman report to? I don't think personal traits or personal attributes can make a difference in the performance. So we say, okay, we've had a university professor, we've had many, matter of fact, most of the people who've headed that agency have been academics. Scholars, academics. But their tenures have had mixed reviews. We can't really say that by you being an intellectual powerhouse, it enables you to perform better. So should our universities begin to have departments of electoral studies to where we have professionals who actually study this as a discipline and become professional electoral practitioners, to where they have the book knowledge apart from personal integrity, which of course goes without saying, should be a key factor. But I see that the various past heads of INEC have been drawn from all aspects of academia, and none of them has really risen head and shoulders above anybody else in terms of performance. So I think what we're seeing is the fact that being an academic is not automatically tantamount to performing well. So the first criteria should be irregardless of whoever is going to be appointed, the way that person is appointed should change. I think that is what is now going to throw up a better crop of candidates than if we just pick people the way we've always been picking them. Yeah, they are men of integrity, they are of unimpeachable character. I don't think Jega or Gobadia or any of the people who came before had any questions about their character. They're all above board people, and I don't think any of them has openly been caught in a scandal where there's been miscarriages of justice in the electoral process, despite the fact that the opposition has always cried foul. I think that's just the way of Nigerian politics, is that the vanquished or the losers don't accept defeat readily. Not everybody is a good luck Jonathan who will throw in the towel and say, I concede. Everybody wants to fight and say it was unfair. And
clearly, pardon me, clearly he's like longest serving at this point, done 2 elections apparently, you know, 2 general elections, 2019 and 2023, because he came in right after the 2015 election.
Right.
So I think for what it's worth, he has, I mean, he's been very well fortunate. So the point is, who's going to be next? And I'm glad you've reeled out the criteria.
Yes.
And we have to ensure that we do better, because this 2027 election, Mr. Akintobi,
he's hotting up.
I love that. That is the word to use. But there you have it. We have to thank you so much, Mr. Dayo Akintobi, Public Affairs Analyst. It's always a pleasure having you on board. I am still ruminating on the point you made about Africa. I think that's something everybody needs to go back again to watch and just try to digest it. But we thank you very much for your time on the program.
My pleasure always. Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you, sir. We'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we talk about that victim, the core member who was dehumanized. What kind of psychological help do we need for her, for other victims alike? And what kind of psychological intervention do we need for the men themselves who perpetrated this act? That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Well, let's talk about the situation that played out in Anambra State on July the 23rd, where some men of a local security network, Agunachimba, invaded a core member's lodge, and they ended up getting a lot of them outside. But what left a really bad taste in the mouth was the way they manhandled one of the core members and stripped her, beat her in the most dehumanizing nature. We started this conversation on Monday. We've spoken to the police, spoken to even the special advisor on community security in Anambra State. We've spoken to the lawyer of the lady. And we can tell you, first off, that the Anambra State government has dismissed 8 operatives over that attack on core members and has ordered prosecution. In fact, the government paraded these men yesterday at the Agunachimba headquarters in Anambra State. So 8 of them have been dismissed. Those are the men who perpetrated that evil act. And then we understand that they will be prosecuted as well. So while that is a win on the one hand, we must also speak about the psychological effect this has had on the victim. And this is just one of several that may be unreported, because thankfully we have video evidence of this one, but there's a lot more happening out there, and we just wanted to seize this moment to speak on that one. So yet again, those are the men who perpetrated that act, and we understand they will be prosecuted. So we're joined on the program this morning by a psychotherapist and a counselor, Temitayo Owoshino, joins us virtually to walk through the psychological impact of this kind of, you can call it a sexual-based violence, really, and what kind of intervention that we expect for the victim and perhaps for those who perpetrated this as well. Good morning, Temitayo. Welcome to the program. I know that this... Good morning. I know you've had to handle situations like this time and again, but I want you to begin by walking us through the mental state of the core member and other victims of such gender-based violence right now, and the kind of intervention that they need.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me here. First of all, I think I would like to empathize with the comment by the question, the leading question, because beating and stripping is a public humiliation, as it were, and no person, male or female, should be exposed to, should have to go through such level of dehumanization. So I really do empathize with her. And of course, I also know that the law enforcement agencies, they are doing their rightful proceedings are going on, investigations are going on. Like you said, that the state government has even dissolved the security operatives on ground. And I think I like the position of the Nigerian Bar Association on this particular case, because the strong front is a signal to the possibility of getting justice at the end of the day. You know, they're taking the position to say that this is an act that is barbaric. It's an act that is unconstitutional. So that's a good one. And importantly, asking that justice be done, and beyond justice being done, that justice be seen to be done. And that's a good one, because with an event like this, especially when there is no deterrence, when there is no direct punishment that people observe to see that there is something done, there's a consequence for such an act like this, then we perpetuate such action. And that's why we would have what we call social behavior, is by observation. People will repeat similar instances, all right, if nothing happens now. And I believe that human dignity should begin to move us to action. And when we begin to tolerate the intolerable, then we lose our dignity as a society now, because this is happening at a mass level, at a societal level, beyond even the lady in question. So that's by way of my overview of the incidents that has happened. About the psychological effect of what she might be going through, different things might be happening right now. And depending on the level of where she's at, depending on her resilience, depending on how, you know, the impact of trauma she's probably had prior to now, there's possibility that she begins to feel a sense of that humiliation, all right? Like I said, there are many things that are possible. Even before trauma, it might not even be trauma yet, okay? But things like psychological effect, like humiliation, a sense of humiliation, she feeling degraded, belittled, and feeling that that was done to her publicly. And public humiliation brings fear, it brings shame, it brings anger, and sometimes all of this then snowballs into other mental health conditions. And yeah, so that's one major thing that is possible for her to be experiencing right now. Another possible thing she might be experiencing is stress reaction, all right, acute stress reaction. The fact that this is happening right now and she may be in shock, which is a stress reaction. She's not even processed it yet. She's not able to she's not able to put meaning, make a meaning, meaningful meaning, if I can say that, of the incidents yet. So she's in shock. She's probably in fear. She's having intrusive thoughts, intrusive images about this experience. And those are things that if no intervention happens right now, appropriate intervention now, are things that would now snowball into causing trauma, becoming post-traumatic stress disorder after now. And yes, and also it's possible, there's a high possibility of, well, maybe we call that traumatization, because the circulation of this video, if not stopped, it can cause re-traumatization. All right, and we know that's one of the woes of social media. Yes, yeah, I think I'll take a pause on that right now before we listen to your next prompt.
I'm happy the way you've layered it, and because we really want to go deep. We want to start with the victims and then we'll go to the perpetrators. And this is not just about the girl in Anambra. There's other girl, the aircraft incident that happened before this particular incident. But let's stay with the very subject matter of the girl in Anambra. So you've talked about right now she's dealing with humiliation. I listened to when she broke her silence after the entire episode, and she gave her own side of the story. But what she kept repeating is that I can't go outside. The business I do, if I go and I'm talking to a client, I can imagine what the client is imagining. Because my pictures are being used as stickers. I can't, she was literally explaining herself in a very helpless scenario as far as that moment of being stripped is concerned. I'm talking about the girl in the Bomber incident. That's on one hand. And then if we go to the one in Anambra, we haven't heard her yet, but I guess our own will be worse because ours comes with it. She was seeing guns, she was seeing men, macho men beating her or carrying guns. It was a very sad situation that we don't know how long it's going to be in circulation. So I brought these two scenarios together to say what phase each of these girls, say the Bomer girl and the core member, what phase are they on now? What phase would they be exposed further to before they begin to see some level of reprieve?
Okay, so speaking about phase they could be, it's interesting that yes, they're both female in the equation, though the contexts are different, yes, but we can say that these are like people seeming to want to met punishment to another human, and the next thing is stripping publicly. So that's like a common factor here. So the states they may be, especially taking a cue from the Ibom Air lady, who said, oh, she's not comfortable to go out, shame and all that, which are imminent as a result, is an effect of humiliation, sense of humiliation. When she feels, shameful, there's shame, there's fear, there's anger and all that. Those are immediate reactions that can happen. So what phase are they here? Maybe that brings us to intervention, possible intervention that they require. Now, by level of immediate response to that action, that event, all right? Especially case in point, the Anambra lady, she might just even be at the phase where she's processing things. She's not made sense of what has happened yet. I believe he's still at the early phases, early stage of our experience. It's about 2-3 weeks now, if I'm correct. About 2-3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks now, that the incidents happened at Anambra with the core member. So she's probably still at the phase where she's trying to make sense. In fact, she's not started to make sense yet. She's just trying to figure it like, okay, what happened? This happened. So maybe she's still in shock. So maybe she's still in denial. Maybe she's still, just trying to even understand that something happened to her. So that's a possible phase she might be in. And if we bring that into intervention, so what should be happening to them now, which I believe is a critical question we need to be asking as a society. What should be happening to them now? Many things should happen. Maybe a first step, an understanding that is important is that the intervention that is required is a long-term intervention. In fact, especially for the Anambra lady, like the case management needs to be opened by the respective organizations involved, all right, especially the organization she's serving with through, all right, a case management needs to be opened about her. Long-term intervention is what is required. That's the first thing we need to understand if we must sustainably help them through this phase. And yes, secondly, it's important to establish that this intervention is not going to be, well, because it's long-term, it's not going to be a touch and go. It's not going to be, let it start now so that it can end quickly in the next few weeks. In fact, it might even be better to start, not to even start that if we're not ready to go the long haul. So what I'm saying in essence is intervention is for the long haul. So the phase they should be in now, if intervention appropriately done, is their first aid, psychological first aid phase, wherein we're trying to stabilize them. Particularly, I'll make the Anambra case a case in point, all right? She's trying to be stabilized and then come to safety, let her come to calm, let her come to, just coming around gradually to really just even embrace the fact that this event had happened. Install a sense of safety and dignity within the first aid, the psychological first aid phase. restoring a sense of dignity and safety is very critical. And then we bring her to calm gradually. She begins to at least come to calm, and then do different, grounding, just helping her to really begin to trust her mind,
right,
to settle, to accepting that really this event had happened, so that she cannot even begin to process what had happened. So a stabilization phase she should be in. And a key element also of this phase, that's the psychological first aid phase, will be that she's handed control. We need to ensure that she has control at this time. She being able to choose who to talk to and who not to talk to at this time yet. Who to talk to and who not to talk to. We've had different cases, celebrity grade case, gone viral, and then trying to intervene and all that. And what you see as a first point of call, interrogations.
Right.
And law enforcement interrogating. Maybe NGOs, third-party organizations interrogating. And the interrogating is in a kind of, not even forensic, just direct questioning. It's like being forced to talk about what you're not ready to. That can impede the healing that should happen for her. So at this phase, it's still her trying to stabilize and walk through the events that had happened, and trying to begin to make sense of what had happened. And maybe, the other thing that is important around that phase will be that medical checks, to just be sure that we take that off the way. All right. Even though I know that, I'm not a medical practitioner, but it's important for her to know that this phase was well documented for her. And then medical examination is done appropriately to check that is taken off the way. And then afterwards,
let me come in quickly. Right. You can land on that point. Afterwards, we can begin to talk. Okay, let me just shoot my question, because I love the way you've laid it out, but then when you come to reality in Nigeria, a lot of times, people don't really think about psychotherapy or, managing things in such, manner. We just approach it the way we think is best, right? Because a lot of people don't even think, oh, I need to see a psychologist, or I need to go through some sort of psychotherapy or counseling as a result of this traumatic event, right? We just either sleep it off, eat it off, rest it off, or just whatever we deem fit. So it's another conversation to speak about how, much this kind of intervention is entrenched in our society as part of our values, where we approach things in a methodical and scientific way. But I want you to speak to something you touched on earlier, and that's social media. For a lot of these events, I think what escalated or made it worse is the fact that the videos are now on social media are trending. For us, we have treated the conversation, even we don't even mention her name, just to give her protection. We ensure that the video is well processed, so it still preserves her dignity. But that's not what you find on social media. So I wonder if it's a concern for you as well, and what would you say to social media users, the big social media users that have following? How should they treat things like this so they don't make the matter worse in trying to, quote, fix it?
Right. So social media is a good platform and is a good tool. In cases like this, there's what we call responsible reporting, and that is maybe in mainstream media. But because information is democratized and publication of the information is also democratized, everybody is literally the media house of his or her own self. Everyone is an agency in their own right. So there is no really control around that. So that is not within the control of anyone right now. Maybe even not so much in the control of government. But I know government still has a lot to do. They have a lot of power, at least to clamp things systemically, all right? But that place of social media, people having access to the platform and able to publicize at the click of a button, they are able to just publicize, say whatever they want to say, when they want to say it, how they want to say it, how be it responsible or not. And that's a problem. okay? And it's part of the problems that is here, the reality of the new age we are in. So would we leave things to continue to be this way? Maybe that's now where mainstream media come from, all right? Reputable organizations like channels, like, reputable organizations, publicizing responsibly, and then engaging people, like conversations we are having now, to educate the public on responsible media or responsible transmission of the information, regardless of how you're transforming it. I mean, while I was looking at that video, there's a part that we are not even looking at. Beyond the girl in question, it's also people that are traumatized, by exposure to this video. We call it vicarious trauma. It's because they watched the video, they felt bad about it. They had questions, nobody to ask. They asked the question, they went on social media, they got reactions. The reactions they got, is triggering them. They can't do anything about it. They're behind their keyboards. So at the end of the day, you might be surprised that people experiencing vicarious trauma right now, which are observers, all of us are part of, might be traumatized more than the girl in question. It's a possibility. And that's because of the war of social media, if we can describe it that way. So these are things we need to be mindful of. Education still needs to continue at government level, of course, at media houses level. Mainstream media now needs to educate and re-educate, continue to educate and re-educate. There's only so much we can do, but education and re-education needs to continue to happen so that responsible media can spread beyond the mainstream media, even to everyone carrying their mobile phones.
Quite important points you've raised, because even for, those of us who are journalists, there are so many things we see, and it can be quite distressing. In fact, when I watched that video, even while I went home that day, I was like, what exactly did I just see? So let's go back to one of the things that is also distressing people, which is why I said those now suspended, expelled, I think they are not just suspended, they've been expelled, they've lost their job, they will be prosecuted according to the government, is that what they did, before we even talk of professionalism, training, it's clear they lack home training. It's as simple as that. Because I saw a video that was very soothing yesterday. A girl did a skit where she wore white and then she put some, reddish stuff on her cloth behind, where she's walking, more like this, the periodic thing with women happened to her and she was not aware. And then she goes to ask for direction and she deliberately walks away. And a lot of the men she walked away from, when they noticed it, they met her, spoke to her, and they removed their shirt to cover her. That gave me hope that we have a lot of young people that are still responsible. So clearly those men who did that, no matter the guys they want to come under, first they are coming under the authority of the states to carry out security work, and they were doing that, dehumanizing this girl. Questions their background as far as this is concerned. But where I'm going to with all of this, and why I raised that concern, and I would like you to speak to, let's not just speak about what is going on in the head of the girl and those of us who are exposed to the picture. Let's also try to get into the head of the men who carried out this act. How would you be armed, looking at an armed girl, for whatever she's doing, to say, I will not follow you, or trying to resist her, and then you start beating her? She doesn't have any gun, she doesn't have any stick, just her hands. She's vulnerable. You hit her to the point and stripped her. Your brain did not flash that this could be your sister. If that is not strong enough in your head, it did not flash in your head that this could be a mother or your mother. It did not flash in your head. It did not flash that this could be your wife or a wife. That did not flash in your head. Okay, let's say all of this is not strong enough. What about a daughter? 6 or 8 men, none of these pictures flashed in their head. Something is wrong with those men. Nobody can tell me otherwise. That's why we brought you here, to explain what is wrong in their head. What happened to them?
And I like the way you had made the connection that how could 6 men and you're trying to do this, why is something not occurring to you? Or how are you not, something is not occurring to you that this is not right, And yes, maybe that's a no-brainer place, and that should be like a common sense place. But see, that common sense is the real issue. Every perpetrator, many perpetrators, most perpetrators are also victims in some sort of ways. And that's a reality we also need to begin to consider. In this particular case, these people carried guns. These are people that are possibly coming from backgrounds of exposure to different kinds of abuses, neglect, abandonment, never felt, always felt helpless, didn't have control, didn't have a sense of belonging to even the family they belonged to. These are only few of the many possibilities of where they might be coming from. Now, this guy now happens to have an opportunity to take. And the opportunity is that, see, your power is in your muscle. Your power is in the gun in your hand. Your power is in the arms and ammunition you have in your hand. This guy will wield that power. The power he never had opportunity to wield as a child. Now that he has control and he has that trigger to pull, to exact a sense of control and power, he will wield it. It's unfortunate that it's common citizens that are victims of their exertion and trying to take control now. And it's unfortunate also that maybe systemically, the system that produced them, because people like that, we can't control all of these things 100%, right, end to end, but we can put measures in place to mitigate things. The system that brought them into place, recruitment process, what was the recruitment process? Training, retraining, even if they got trained at the point of entry, retraining should happen, reorientation should happen, psychological check should even happen, before you give arms and ammunition to people. But of course, I know our reality. Again, the cycle, just goes back to this starts from family, neglect that had happened and all of that. And the way, there's what we call the trauma cycle, that it happened from their own family. Now, that cycle is continuing because there hadn't been intervention for them. Who made them become perpetrators now? Now they're pulling a trigger. And so, okay, well, he's not pulling trigger. Dehumanizing, fellow human, and using your words, and, like the brain not telling them something is wrong. So maybe something is wrong with them. Do you see? And so now they're pulling the trigger. The lady they put trigger on, that is a traumatic event. If no intervention for her, the cycle of trauma continues. And that's how the cycle of trauma continues without intervention. It's high time we began to create pragmatic intervention, sustainable interventions for traumatic cases, right from childhood even into adulthood. And then perhaps the system that produced people, the system that produced the guide, the system that produced the woman, in the case of the Igbo air, the system that produced people, all right, putting checks in place beyond what we can see, touch, and hold, beyond the physical, beyond the social, to include psychological, the psychological element.
Right.
Giving credence to that, in the system that produces people, evaluate people psychologically, so that at the end of the day, we are building a nation that is aware and that is aiding people, regardless of where you're coming from.
There you go. Because when you have broken people, then giving us broken system, what we have is an entirely broken society, and we see these outcomes. So it's important to pay attention to those important things. I think this has been a very productive conversation. Temitayo Owoshina, psychotherapist and counselor, thank you for your time and for the work you do. Wish you the very best, and of course, other victims of this sort of violence, this conversation is also for them. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we'll take a break now, and when we return, we'll turn our attention to that big conversation on salaries for the president, the vice president, the heads of National Assembly, political office holders. There's this proposal to increase their salaries. To what exactly? What is the rationale behind this? And is that what we really need at this time? We'll find out in a moment as Hamzat Lawal joins us. Stay with us.
All right, moving on now, let's bring in Hamzat Lawal, who is the founder, Connected Development. Follow the Money, joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Lawal, thank you so much for coming and for your patience.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me.
So, Mr. Lawal, to be or not to be, the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission is saying the salaries we're paying our political office holders, beginning from the president, is unrealistic. In fact, I'm trying to get to that particular quote that was cited. Where it talked about you are paying the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1.5 million naira a month with a population of over 200 million people. Everybody believes that it is a joke. So Hamza, what I did was I quickly went to our dear friend, aka ChatGPT, to check how much some presidents earn, which I would like you to piggyback on. US president, $400,000 per year. UK Prime Minister, $167,000 or pounds or euro now per year. Chinese President, $22,000 I think per year. The German Chancellor, €360 per year. Then I came down to Africa. I just asked for 5 top president pay, or president with top pays in Africa. Paul Biya, $620,000 per year. King Mohammed VI of Morocco, $488,000. Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, over $200,000. Uhuru Kenyatta, $192,000. That's per year, per annum. Yoweri Museveni, $183,000 per year. So if you look at President Bola Tinubu's salaries by what the Fiscal Commission has said, if they are paying him $1.5 million a year, that's about $1,000 in today's exchange. So it means a year, President Tinubu should be earning in the neighborhood of about $12,000. Is that fair?
I think when we want to talk about fairness, we should also look at it from the point of what is our GDP per capita, what is the average Nigerian earning, because, you know, the chairman talked about, fairness. But if you really want to talk about fairness, we should look at what our civil servants are earning, what our security agencies are earning. Because, again, these are the people that are on the front line and also ensure that the Nigerian people get services. So, again, and maybe just to be a bit sarcastic here, I think maybe we should reverse our minimum wage to 30,000 and take what is on top from every civil servant and gather it and then give it to political office holders. Come on, man, let's be serious for once, I think, one, it's insensitive, particularly at this point in our political history, that we want to take money and give to political office holders. Even if I understand the constitutional role of, the commission, but then again, you must also be very sensitive about the current plight of the Nigerian people, the state of the economy, the state of the country, and this reform that are happening that is putting a lot of burden on the Nigerian people. And particularly, I want to quote Mr. President. He said that we must tighten our belt. This is the time for us to sacrifice. So why is it that the political office holders don't want to also sacrifice? Why is it that it is the citizens that would carry this burden? What burden are they carrying? And you see a lot of, the commission just focus only on their salary. Let's talk about their allowances. Let's talk about their ESTA code when they travel for all these foreign trips, So let's talk about also other entitlements. So, some of them even roll or ride on armored cars, that's bulletproof vehicles. So let's not just only focus on their salary, Let's focus on all of these other entitlements that come with, occupying political office. And you see, we've been saying that we cannot continue to make public office this attractive, because if you make it attractive, then that's why you always have do or die affair, where people want to, do whatever is unconstitutional to occupy this office. So no, I think, one, it's insensitive, and I think it's political suicidal if, for any reason, Mr. President, after this commission put together their report and all the consultation that they hope to do, pass this into law. Mind you, President Obasanjo did not, assent to, the reviews that was done previously. President Jonathan also shied away from it. Even late President Muhammadu Buhari, God bless his soul, also shied away from it. So I think it's not timely. I think it's insensitive, and this will be a political suicide, particularly for the executive arm of government. Even if I must also acknowledge that 33 years we've not reviewed salaries. But, there's also an underlying factor here. And for me, I think this is even much more important than what the president and other heads of agencies and parastatal earn, is how do we take more money to the local government? And how do we ensure accountability mechanism? Because I know it's also part of the conversation that was had. And mind you also, there's a lot of money going to states. And there should be a lot of money going to local government. And with the Supreme Court ruling about local government autonomy, but we're not seeing the implementation even after 1 year of this ruling. So how do we ensure that we can change the allocation from the federation account and ensure that money goes to state, but particularly more money go to local government? Because, the state governors, they have immunity. So when they're in office, really they're not accountable. And they hide under the immunity clause. But our local government chairmen, they don't have immunity. So our anti-corruption agencies can actually find them wanting when they try to skim the milk. So for me, what is much more important is how do we take resources to the grassroots, particularly local government.
Some of the points made by the RMAFC, or RAMFAC, as they're called sometimes, is that you pay the CBN governor, for example, times 10 of what the president earns, or you pay a DG times 10, minister earns 1 million. How does that make sense? So what do you propose, really? Because obviously this is a concern for them. Timing, yes, it's going to be a challenge. So what do you propose? Is for a DG or a CBN governor is earning times 10 what the president is earning on paper, I should say, on paper. Because if you look at the schedule, you see that a lot of the line items, they put to be published. So it's not even added to the total. So what we see most times as a total is not really the total, because we don't have a full picture of the president's, salary and allowances, for example. But my question is in relation to, let's say, the CBN governor, as the RAMFAC head said, or a DG who earns times 10 of what maybe a minister earns or what have you. So what do you prescribe? Should we bring down the CBN governor's salary in that sense so there will be a balance, or increase those other ones so it will match up, if you catch my drift here?
I think first is we need to understand that some of the heads of agencies and parastatals are professionals. And these are people who even government have scouted them or recruited them from the private sector, who are earning really good salaries. So, but again, some of these political appointees and public office holders are politicians. Some of them are not professional. Some of them don't even have results, let alone even certificates. So, and when you also look at it, again, some agencies or parastatal, the head of this agency do much more work than even the ministers who are supervising over them. So I think, again, if we want to be fair, maybe we should reduce the salary of the people that they think earn more than the president, if they think that the president should get more remuneration. And right now, the Nigerian people cannot afford, to pay the salary of the president what he wants to earn, or what the chairman of the commission wants to give the president or propose for the president to earn. Since we cannot afford it right now, maybe we can reduce the salaries of some of these people that he has mentioned in his report during the press briefing, and take this money and maybe give to, people in the Nigerian police force or the civil service people that we know that their salary and their purchasing power have been reduced due to the economic hardship. So for me, I don't think this should be an issue. And if they're complaining about their salary, let them resign from office. Let them go to the private sector, or let them start a business and pay themselves what they think they actually deserve. Let them not come and put burden on us. The Nigerian people are already carrying a lot of burden. There's a tax burden, the debt burden we're carrying. Now you want to add more burden to us. So what sacrifices are political office holders? What sacrifices are they making? If they say the Nigerian people should sacrifice, they should lead by example and not want to collect fat salaries.
So what do we now do when the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, who should be championing what you're advocating, to say, okay, leave it the way it is, or even reduce it so that there's that markup, okay, in case somebody's earning way more than the president, okay, let's see what we can do and adjust here and there. When the people that are supposed to look at the situation of where we are in terms of our fiscal performance and our fiscal reality, and now at the vanguard of advocating for increase, what are we left off with?
Well, again, this is about rent-seeking. This is about wanting to ensure that they make the president happy rather than focus on their constitutional responsibility. I don't know why they've not even made a statement or reacted to the fact that we've not even gotten the quarterly budget performance or expenditure. Because again, this commission, one of their roles is to ensure that we utilize money prudently and advise government on how to ensure that we get value for money and the impact in investing in infrastructure. Not even the federal government, also state government. So I think that they just have misplaced priorities, and maybe they should focus on some of their constitutional responsibility. Like I said before, I understand that over 33 years, we've not really reviewed some of this allocation and the salary of the president. But this is not the time to do that. The country cannot afford it. And, this is a no-brainer. Yes, I understand they say they are going to have consultation, even with civil society. We hope that they don't bring rubber stamp civil society or, for this consultation. We look forward to an invitation to this consultation. So we tell them directly to their face, this is not the time, to debate what the president earns. And if, again, like I've said, if our politicians and political office holders think that they're not paid what they're due, they should resign and go and find a job that would pay them, or they can create their own company and, allocate salary to themselves. Let them not put more burden to what the Nigerian people are carrying. And again, leadership is about, leading by example. And, I think that, again, except they want to set Mr. President up, I think this is even a setup for Mr. President, because why would you want to take a decision that will make the leadership of the country so unpopular?
It's quite interesting, really. And as you said, the Ramfak has its job, right? They just make the proposals and say, well, since 2009, for example, we've not looked at this thing. Yes, we presented it in 2009, presented it even in, I think, 2015, but the president, I'm saying, so let's present it again. So nobody will say we did not present it. But, the elephant in the room, which you spoke to, is when people see the remuneration package and see 40 million for the president, they say, come on, Abba now. Even the position alone of a councillor, right? Yes, we see what is on paper, but that position alone fetches other things, right? So I doubt if the average council or local government chairman or, any of those political office holders really check their salary account and say, oh, alerts don't enter, as a worker will do. So let's talk about the other perks of the office, because in some way, this also, and the point of this conversation really is to fight corruption. So some have said increase their salaries such that when there's some sort of inducement, they don't look at it because their salary sorts them. So they don't have to engage in sharp practices in the guise of trying to fend for themselves. So they've said for that reason, increase their salaries. But then the perks that come with this office. Someone pays their children's school fees. Someone gets them vehicles, and buys a house for them. So they're really comfortable. So you have been following the money. You have been at the vanguard of, fighting corruption in that sense. What do we do about, these perks that come with the office that are times 1 million of the official amount?
You see, and that's why constitutionally, before you go into public office, ideally you're supposed to declare your assets or what you have, even before you occupy public office. So that, again, there's a government agency that's supposed to also ensure that, they monitor and ensure that you don't use public office to amass a lot of wealth. Again, that's on paper, but you and I know what the reality currently is. But I think, if we want to make this country work and we want to tackle corruption, let's focus on the civil service. Because, see, every salary earner what takes, and when you look at data, what do they spend on? Feeding, shelter, school fees, healthcare. If you can deal with this 4 key issues, and then the 5th one is transportation. If you can deal with this, you will drastically reduce corruption. And so what am I saying? Let's invest in educational infrastructure, but not just the infrastructure, but also output. You know, what are you teaching these children within the 4 walls of the classroom? Let's invest in public health care so that our politicians do not have to always fly out of the country when they have headache, you know? Let's ensure that we have public transportation that is effective and efficient and affordable for the Nigerian people. Let's also ensure that we have affordable housing, you know, because we now know the kind of corruption that is ongoing in the real estate sector. And I'm really glad that the EFCC chairman, you know, wants to really focus on that sector. And hopefully we can unbundle it. So if you, as a government, invest in this critical infrastructure, then you don't have to worry about, oh, my salary is small. No. Because if this is how the Nigerian people would really feel and enjoy the dividends of democracy. You know, again, we're just here talking about a percentage of people and we're not even focused about, you know, the other 99% of our population that are in dire need of some of these services. So, again, I think it's important to focus on increasing salary for civil servants because you and I know this current minimum wage is not working for them rather than, you know, trying to pay people that are very overly even comfortable. Literally people that are being spoon-fed. You know, we want to still add, you know, more feeding to them so that they continue to grow fat while the Nigerian people grow thin.
There's something there. I think if I heard the EFCC boss say, he said it when he was talking about, I think, the real estate sector. And the politicians are becoming a lot more smart by the day. If I heard him correctly, he's talked about some declaring their assets they will steal ahead of time. So in their document, not necessarily that they have it, but they know that by the end, maybe they have a projection so that you're not going to say, I did not declare. So they declare ahead of time the things they will steal. You don't know they're going to steal it. So how do we get ourselves out of this? If the EFCC has identified it with the smart minds, then that means we can actually mitigate it. Because with the way politicians, people who had no career, who had no clear source of revenue, or just were quite comfortable, come into politics and they become stupendously wealthy. We've had conversations, even on television, asking former leaders, how did you make your money? And there's no clarity to how they made their money. And these people are so rich. I mean, war chests extraordinaire. That's what they carry. So it leads to be, that's why people say they come into office and they steal our money and they use the same money to oppress us. That's connected, follow the money part is what I like about the organization. How do we ensure, maybe not to be able to eradicate, I don't know whether eradication is a possibility, critically mitigate to reduce it to the barest minimum that before you can steal public funds, you will be, you know, something else to be able to do that. Because right now it's very easy to steal public funds. Very easy.
You see, this is not rocket science, you know, because, see, that's why we're advocating for open government. And yes, that's why I also like what the Corporate Affairs Commission is doing. Let's know who owns what, when, and when. You know, and that's why when you even go online, you can see the directors of different companies and the date they were registered. When they declare their assets, there's a government agency that is supposed to ensure verification. How do they do that? And you know, we've also called that when public officials and our politicians declare their assets, let's make that declaration public. The only person who was bold enough to do that was Waziri Adio when he was appointed to head Naiti. You know, he went on X, which was Twitter, and published, you know, what was in his account, what asset he had, you know, before he went into office. Even if, you know, again, constitutionally, you're just allowed to fill the form and submit. But then I think that if we want to tackle corruption, governments should publish this asset declaration so that the Nigerian people can independently verify and then ask questions. And so that when people acquire wealth in an ill manner, the Nigerian people can then put it side by side what they have declared. And yes, I give it to the politicians. They're becoming really smart and dubious. And sadly, that's why you also now you have state capture. You have strong men, strong men, not women, strong men in the corridors of power who are now capturing states because of the kind of wealth that they have. So now you have institutions of government that is supposed to serve the collective interest of the people, serving an interest or serving, an interest of an individual, which is very, very selfish. So again, if we want to strengthen our processes, maybe we need to go a step further, because there's what you call the beneficial ownership. Publishing. There's a register in the United Kingdom. You can Google and check every single thing that, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom owns. How much is what is his value before he entered office and when he left office. But today we don't have beneficial ownership. Yes, you can see, directors of company and the day they were registered, but you cannot see specifically what asset is accrued to those names. And if we can go further, that would help civil society in our efforts, our advocacy, and to support also anti-corruption agency on the fight against corruption.
Well, this is a very important conversation to have. I mean, we can also talk about the people themselves who line up in front of these political office holders' homes and houses and offices, looking for, the daily 2K. So these ones have to then kill a cow, dole out money on a daily basis, and they always question the people so where do you expect us to get these monies from, right? Because you come and say, we need to get married, your wife just gave birth, when it's actually, no, your own wife that gave birth, but you call her my own wife as well. So the system in itself has that challenge. So maybe we end on that note, how the people can also support this, because you find a lot of people who don't see anything wrong in this because it benefits them in that sense, even though it's 5,000 or 10,000 naira that they get from this office holder. So what is their responsibility in all of this amidst the prevailing poverty?
My brother Kayode, first we need to understand that even our culture, as it's its own, embraces corruption and accepts corruption. And I think first, to roll back this, we need to do a lot of sensitization and advocacy around it, and also do a re-engineering of our value system as a whole. But then again, our politicians have become so smart that now they have weaponized corruption. They've weaponized corruption that, so if you create jobs and you create value and people are busy, nobody will come and line up in front of your house every morning, to want to get a handout. If you're able to provide social amenities and safety nets for people, when they are sick, they get their health insurance cover them. When they take their children to the hospital or when they go to school, there's free education, there's quality and timely education. Then nobody would have to go and line up. When government is able to provide shelter, for her citizen and ensure, a better standard of living. Mind you, this is about dignity. Everybody in Nigeria have a sense of pride and dignity. But when you take away that dignity, they would come and line up and want to get a handout. So again, we need to, look at our value system and our culture that have fully embraced corruption, because I'll not lie to you, man. Our culture actually embraces, this kind of system and corruption as its whole. And, if we don't find a solution to it and roll back, on this social engineering, it's going to be a lot of headache for us in time to come.
Hamzat Lawal, we have to thank you so much for your time. I know you've been doing a lot of road trips across the country. Maybe we'll have a sit down, talk about the things you have seen in this your past, how many years now, following the money. But it's always a pleasure having you, Hamzat Lawal, founder, Connected Development, Follow the Money, and so on and so on. Thank you and wish you the very best.
Thank you, Kayode. Bye-bye now.
Goodbye. Oh, there you have it. So the conversation is still out there. Let us know what you think about it. But we'll take a quick break now. When we return, we're headed to Katsina State. The death toll from that mosque attack has now reached 32. What exactly is playing out? We'll find out in a moment. Stay with us. Let's talk about the security situation in Katsina State. There's been a mosque attack by bandits, and now 32 people have died as a result of that mosque attack. And this is coming amidst wins, I must say, even by security agencies, the NSA speaking to the arrest of those 2 terrorists involved in the Kuje prison break. But we still have issues around insecurity in parts of the country. So we must look at the full picture and ensure that no one is left behind in this fight against insecurity. And we're joined on the program this morning by former Special Advisor to former Katsina State Governor on Security Matters, also retired Director in the DSS, who's now a private security consultant on peace building and community policing, Mr. Ibrahim Katsina joins us virtually on the program this morning. You're welcome to the program, Mr. Katsina.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, we're trying to keep up, particularly with what we're hearing from Katsina State. So maybe give us a backstory. I mean, these worshippers went to pray. That is the safest place. That's meant to be one of the safest places, a religious house. But what they met with was not safety, was not peace. It was death. So perhaps you can walk us through what exactly played out up until that moment, Mr. Ahmad Katsina.
Actually, what we're facing is a sort of community banditry. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead. We can hear you.
What we're facing in Katsina is actually community banditry that needs a whole society approach to understand the dynamics of the problem. Because the way things are going now is it appears as if these bandits have understood the psychology of the people and are cashing on that and have now crossed all the boundary of peaceful coexistence. These bandits are from the affected communities. That's one thing we should understand. They are known by members of the communities, and from the information we are getting, it appears it was a reprisal attack. So I think what we need to do is to understand the dynamics of this threat, involve the communities concerned in addressing this problem, because one, the security forces, as I understood, are overwhelmed. They're trying their best to see that they overcome this situation, but unfortunately, the number of security forces is not enough. And the dynamics of the crime is widening by the day. So we need a whole society approach. Let members of the communities be involved, and especially what the state government is doing now by enhancing community policing, involving community watch, using members of the communities to assist in fighting this crime and criminality. And above all, I think some of the local governments have started reaching out to the bandits, dialoguing with them to understand what are the actual factors responsible for this. Because I think if we continue to fight this problem without understanding the factors responsible, we'll be moving in the reverse gear. Actually, there are undercurrents, there are some dynamics, there are some problems that led to these attacks. They cannot just happen overnight. So I think what we need to do is let us involve everybody in the communities concerned, traditional rulers, religious leaders, the security agencies, the government. Let us sit on a round table. These bandits, these criminals have their representatives. They are in these local communities. They can be reached out. Let us discuss what is causing all this problem. I think if we evolve a whole society approach, it can help us to go to the roots of this problem and deal with it squarely. Because actually, we're in a rainy season now, the terrain is too bad, they cannot be accessed easily by the security forces. But the local communities concerned know their location. So I think if we involve the traditional rulers there, the community leaders, the government should sit with them. They can identify the leaders of these criminal elements and do the needful. Because unless we evolve a whole society approach, from top to bottom, this crime and criminality will continue. But actually, they have crossed the deadline. It's terrible. How can you attack innocent worshippers in a mosque, which is supposed to be the most peaceful place on earth? So there are two colors, and I think they need to be dominated and dealt with squarely. But we need a whole society approach to deal with this challenge.
It's a sad situation that we found ourselves that people are being killed in this manner, and it's almost something that we have decided to live with. If we take the death toll of the people that are being killed, whether via insurgency or farmer-header clash or some other forms of violent attack, it feels like we are at war. So it's anybody who says Nigeria is at war is technically saying almost the right thing, even though we're not in full-blown war. But the death toll seems to represent a perception of a country at war. How do we manage this? Let's use this Katsina incident now. As you said, the safest place. In fact, if some killers have conscience, if you run into places of worship where people subscribe to any form of deity, that's supposed to be some form of a safe haven. But when those places are now slaughter places, slaughter houses, it becomes very disturbing as far as this is concerned. What do you think is the message that these killers are always trying to send whenever they deliberately do some of the things they do, like what we're seeing in the Katsina Mosque attack?
Well, the first message I understood is that these criminals are worse than animals. They have no conscience, they have no manners, and I don't think they have religion. Therefore, there's no religion that tolerates somebody to attack somebody in a place of worship. There's no religion that tolerates that. So I think what we should do is, as I said, these are community-based problems. Let us evolve community-based solutions. Because the issue is that I am sure if we make a case study of this attack, those that have done the attacks are known. Their communities are known. They are located within the area. So I think what the government should do is they should set up a serious investigation team that will use the traditional institution, the community leaders in the affected areas to identify those that are responsible. If possible, call them for discussions and see what led to this attack. Because you see, the pockets of attacks we are having in the Northwest, in most cases appears to be reprisal attacks between this community and the other. So what we should do is we should not overwhelm the activities of the security agencies now by abandoning community concerns. Let us use the communities now. Members of the traditional institution, I'm telling you, can play a very vital role here if you involve them and give them a specific role to play. Let them call those that are responsible. I am sure they can identify the leaders of these criminal elements. That's why I say it's a local problem. It's a community-based problem. Let members of the communities be involved. Let us discuss. Let us find solution. Because after every protracted conflict, there must be dialogue. There must be discussions to understand the dynamics of the problem. And unless we address the factors responsible, as I said earlier, the problem will continue to reoccur. So I think what we should do now is let the government involve the traditional communities in the affected area, the religious leaders, let them give them the intelligence at the local level as to those that are suspected to be involved. After identifying them, they have their leaders, they have their communities. They can reach out to them because as done in other local governments in the state, when they reach out for dialogue, they identify the leaders of the criminal elements and discuss with them like what happened in Jibia, in Damusa, in Safana, and some other local governments in the area. So I think what we should do in the case of Malumfashi now, I know tempers are high, people are disturbed, but let us calm down. It's sympathetic, it's callous, it's too bad. But when tempers are high, we should not lose our senses. We should do the needful. On the other hand, the federal government forces should try as much as possible to dominate the scene, because when criminal elements commit crime and there's no corresponding punishment,
right,
it is encouraging others. So as the government security forces are trying to clamp down on these criminal elements, let the government on the other side involve the communities, reach out to those concerned and do the needful. Unless we do that, the cycle of violence, especially in that axis, seems to be continuing. So that is my take on this.
Indeed, as we begin to wind down, I just want to get some things clear, because you've tried to lay out this issue succinctly. You've described it as community banditry. You also said that this is some sort of reprisal attack, yes, in that sense. And you said that these people are known by the community. They're not people from outside in that sense. And each time we hear that, it begs more questions. So does that mean, on one hand, the people are, in quote, romancing these bandits within their community, or they are living in fear at the same time? But you'd expect that if they're living in fear, to at least go the extra mile to involve security and say, well, this is where these people are. They're amongst us, and we need you to help us get them out. And I want to tie this to what former Vice President Atiku Abubakar said in his post about this attack, saying that the current government is aloof and in denial of worsening security situation, and continues to operate as if nothing is wrong, remaining detached from the anguish of ordinary Nigerians. So where exactly is the failure here, or who is dropping the ball? Is it the people in the community? Is it the security agencies, or from the very top? I am talking the government now at the center.
You see, what I'm saying on the aspect of a whole society approach is that everybody should be involved. There's no time for blame game. We should not politicize the issue of security. No, what we need to do is let us assist the government to do the needful. Because by the time we continue to push blames on the security agencies, on the government, or on the communities, then the criminal elements will take advantage of that. I think what we should do is let everybody be involved, a whole society approach from top to bottom, from bottom to top. Let us, even in the United Nations, part of the charter for fighting terrorism is that you should identify factors responsible. You see, criminal elements cannot just wake up by the day and go and attack a mosque. What happened before the attack? What led them to do that? Unless we understand that aspect, we will continue to go round and round until we are tired without finding a solution. But when we go deep down, we identify the factors responsible and those responsible, which I told you, members of the communities, if you beat them, they can tell you this native intelligence. But they are not being consulted. So let the traditional institutions be consulted, let the community leaders be consulted, let the religious leaders be consulted, let them have a round table, let the government facilitate this. And I think that's why the federal government should come in quickly, provide this platform, because these pockets of problems we're having in the Northwest, unless we do a whole society approach, involve the relevant stakeholders to address these concerns, it will continue. You can remember what happened in the Northeast on this issue of Boko Haram and what have you, and what is playing in most part of the northern country. The issue is, unless you involve members of the community to tackle this problem, the criminals will continue. Because those that are sponsoring them are in the communities, those that are shielding them are in the communities, and those that are offending them are also in the communities.
Right.
So these three factors, what remains is let everybody be involved. What has gone wrong? From people that are naturally peaceful, that are relatives, that have grown together and now are fighting each other.
Right.
What happened? What is leading to this problem? What is leading to this cycle of violence?
And these are the big questions, Mr. Ahmed.
Yeah.
You can land on that thought as we close quickly.
Okay.
You were saying what we understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, you see, if we involve everybody, people know who are responsible, they know what happened, they know what led to the violence, then the government should utilize that native intelligence to handle the situation. But now if we continue to do the blame game, tempers are high, we will lose focus, and the criminal elements will take advantage of this.
And I think that's
But
a
let
great
us
place
involve everybody. Yeah.
to anchor,
That's
really. We have to thank you for your interventions. Very important, at least being someone on the ground, being in government, you understand these issues. So we thank you for your time, Mr. Ibrahim Ahmed, former special advisor to former Katsina State Governor on security matters. Well, thank you once again. I wish the people the very best as we continue to follow this story. So that's the latest on the Katsina situation. At first, the death toll from that Tuesday attack was 15, rose to 17, but now it is at 32. Bandits attacking that mosque and shooting worshippers who were trying to pray. They had said that they had put out word to security agencies who came and then left before the attack happened. But there are other stories we're keeping track. And first off is the defeat of Nigeria's D Tigers at the Afro Basket Championship. The quarterfinal match against Senegal didn't end well for Nigeria's D Tigers. I know that right now a lot of people are comparing to the D Tigress. It's understandable. I mean, people will naturally do that. But of course, these games are different in terms of their physicality and all of that. So let's cut them some slack. Or maybe not. But the point is that our D Tigers lost to Senegal yesterday, 91 to 75 points. The very first quarter, Nigeria won just by 1 point. But Senegal came back and hit the D Tigers second quarter, third quarter. So the last quarter was really too little, too late of sorts for the D Tigers. Senegal has always been a thorn in our flesh, Jeffrey. So when this match is going to happen,
or in
basketball.
In basketball, we've always had somebody that always looks like, okay, you can be a big economy, you can play at other games at other states, but when it comes to this court or this field, I think there's some level of competition that we're able to give you a run for your big money. And that's exactly what Senegal does to us at the court. And well.
So I'm not able to speak with my friends from Senegal for now. I'm keeping away from them. After like 2 weeks, when I recover.
I don't have any Senegalese friend, at least to the best of my knowledge now. But, well, congratulations to them. Congratulations are in order.
Yeah.
We're all Africans, so we're super proud whenever we win, you know, anything. But I did wish that the Tigers could have qualified from here and gotten ahead of this.
I mean, there's already the Jollof Wars, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
There's the football.
So let's be clear. This Jollof War between Senegal and Nigeria was created by Alhaji Lai Mohammed. It's not an original Jollof War.
Well, it's always been, actually, because when you look at the history of Jollof, and this is us, we're just deflecting right now. We don't want to talk about basketball, so we're talking Jollof, so we feel better. You know, it's got it from Wolof, which is, I mean, Senegal. We all know that. So it's always been said that the history, the origin of Jollof is Senegal, so they sort of own that. So we can't be battling Jollof football and then basketball again. We're going through this. So to all of my Senegalese friends, congratulations to you. D Tigress defeated your female team, so it's 1-1 of sorts. Let's just keep that.
So congratulations to them. Yeah. We'll continue our Jollof War with Ghana. Ghana and Nigeria are popular for the Jollof War. Anyway, that's as far as that encounter is concerned.
No $100,000.
Nah, forget that.
Ouch.
Forget the $100,000 for now. For me, it was just a good reward for